The alien queen and her army plead for help, fearing that not any will respond until help arrives. The stars above the planet Vierxia once shined bright and peaceful. Long ago, travelers called it the jewel of the outer rim. Its cities glowed like crystal flowers. Its people were proud, intelligent, and calm. Now the stars only watched in silence. Smoke covered the sky. Towers lay broken. Fires burned where laughter once lived. The air trembled with distant explosions, and the sound of warning sirens never stopped. High above the ruined capital stood a tall silver tower, the royal spire. Inside it, Queen Celira of Vierk stood alone before a massive window. She was young for a queen. Her crown was light, but her eyes were heavy. Below her, her world was dying, the empire that was losing hope. The Virelian Empire had ruled peacefully for centuries. They were not conquerors. They believed in trade, diplomacy, and honor. Their ships were graceful, their technology advanced, and their culture respected life. That was why they were losing. Their enemy, the Karn Void Swarm, knew no mercy. The Karn were not builders, they were destroyers. Their ships were dark and sharp like claws. Their soldiers felt no fear. They did not negotiate. They only consumed worlds and moved on. One by one, Virelian colonies fell. Now only the homeworld remained. Inside the war chamber, generals stood in silence. Their uniforms were damaged. Some had bandages. Others looked like they had not slept in days. A large star map glowed in the center of the room. Red markers filled the space around Vierxia. Too many? Queen Celira walked forward slowly. Her long silver cloak dragged across the floor. "Report," she said calmly. Admiral Verk stepped forward. His voice was tired. "Our outer defense line collapsed 6 hours ago. We lost 30 ships. The Karn fleet will reach this system within 2 cycles." The Queen closed her eyes. 2 cycles meant 2 days. Another commander spoke, fear in her voice. "Our remaining fleet cannot stop them. Even if we fight with everything we have, we will fall." Silence followed. Everyone knew the truth. They were out of options. The question no one wanted to ask the Queen turned to her council. "Have we received replies from our allies?" The room felt heavy. One by one, the council members lowered their heads. No response from the Elthari. The council stiffened. One officer swallowed hard. "Your Majesty, you mean the humans?" "Yes," the Queen replied. A wave of discomfort spread through the room. Humans were new to the galactic stage. They had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Their technology was messy. Their ships looked rough. Their politics were unstable. Most races saw them as unpredictable. Some even called them dangerous. "They are not part of any alliance," one counselor said. "They fight among themselves," said another. "They are too young," added a third. The Queen turned sharply. "And yet they are alive," she said. "They survive disasters that should destroy them. They adapt. They endure." The room went quiet. "We have asked everyone else," she continued, "and no one answered." She took a slow breath. "I will not let my people die in silence." The message no one expected deep beneath the royal spire was an ancient communication chamber. It had not been used in generations. The Queen stood before the massive transmitter. It could send a message beyond known space, farther than any normal signal. It was meant for first contact, for last hope. Her hands trembled slightly as she activated the system. The recording began. She stood tall, even though fear burned in her chest. "This is Queen Celira of the Virelian Empire," she said. Her voice echoed softly. "Our world is under attack. Our fleets are broken. Our people are dying." She paused, steadying herself. "We do not ask for alliance. We do not ask for protection. We only ask for help." Her eyes shone with emotion. "If anyone hears this message, if anyone still believes life is worth saving, please." Her voice cracked. "Please answer." The signal launched into the darkness of space. And then silence. The waiting hours passed. Then a day. Then another. No reply. Outside the palace, evacuation ships filled the skies. Civilians fled to underground shelters. Soldiers prepared for a final stand they knew they could not win. Queen Salira walked among her people. She spoke to wounded soldiers. She comforted children. She stood beside engineers who worked until their hands shook from exhaustion. She did not hide, but inside her heart, hope was fading. On the second night, she returned to the communication chamber alone. She stared at the silent console. "So this is how it ends," she whispered. Suddenly a sound. A sharp tone cut through the quiet. The console flickered. A signal appeared. Unknown origin. The queen froze. Then the translator activated. The message that changed everything. The screen filled with static. A voice came through, rough, tired, but clear. "This is Commander James Carter of the United Human Defense Fleet." The Queen's breath caught. "We received your message," the voice continued. "It took time to trace the signal." There was a short pause. "Your situation looks bad." The Queen stepped closer to the screen. The voice continued, calm and firm, "But you're not alone anymore." Her heart began to race. "We're on our way." For a moment she could not speak. You are coming," she finally whispered. "Yes," the human replied. "We don't know what we'll face. We don't know if we can win." A slight smile appeared on the screen. "But we never ignore a call for help." The signal ended. The room was silent. Then alarms sounded across the palace. Not enemy alarms, arrival alerts. The first human ship's Viralian scanners lit up. Multiple warp signatures appeared at the edge of the system. The officers stared in shock. They're real," one whispered. The Queen rushed to the observation deck. She saw them, human ships. They were not beautiful like Viralian vessels. They were bulky, scarred, covered in armor plates and repair marks. Some looked old, others looked barely held together, but they moved with purpose, and they placed themselves directly between Vyrexia and the enemy. The human fleet formed a defensive wall. A message came through once more. "Queen Salira," the human commander said, "this is only a forward group. More are coming." The Queen's eyes filled with tears. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why would you risk yourselves for us?" The human paused, then answered simply. "Because someone asked for help." The moment the human ships arrived, the space around Vyrexia changed. Before, the sky felt empty and hopeless. Now it felt alive. Hundreds of human vessels formed a wide defensive line in front of the planet. Their engines burned bright blue and orange. Some ships were small and fast. Others were massive, covered in armor plates and weapon mounts. They did not retreat. They did not hesitate. They simply took position. Inside the royal spire, Queen Salira stood frozen, staring at the tactical screen. "They're forming a shield," she whispered. Admiral Verk nodded slowly. "Yes, Your Majesty, they are placing themselves between us and the enemy." A young officer spoke in disbelief. "But they are outnumbered 10-1. The Queen clenched her hands. "Then why would they do this?" No one had an answer. "The enemy arrives." The void twisted. Dark shapes tore through space. The Karn void swarm had arrived. Their fleet was massive, hundreds of sharp black ships moving like a living storm. Their weapons glowed with deadly red energy. The sight alone crushed hope. The Karn did not hesitate. They attacked. Energy beams tore across space, slamming into the front line of human ships. Explosions flashed like dying stars. A Viralian officer cried out, "They're taking heavy fire." On the main screen, a human cruiser was hit directly. Its shields collapsed. Flames erupted along its hull, but instead of retreating, the ship moved forward. Straight into enemy fire. The Queen gasped. "Why isn't it pulling back?" Then the human voice came through the channel again. "Helios 3 to all units. Hold the line." The damaged ship surged ahead and slammed into an enemy vessel, exploding in a bright flash that destroyed both. The Viralians stared in shock. "They sacrificed themselves," one whispered. The Queen felt her heart shake. The human way of war. The battle exploded across the stars. Human ships fought differently than any fleet the Viralians had ever seen. They did not rely on perfect formations. They did not retreat when damaged. They adapted. When shields failed, they used armor. When weapons overheated, they rammed. When engines failed, they turned themselves into barriers. A human frigate lost half its hull, but stayed in place to block enemy fire from reaching a Virelian evacuation ship. A human fighter ran out of missiles, so it flew directly into a Karn weapon node. The Queen watched in horror and awe. "They're not trying to survive," she whispered. "They're trying to protect." The voice of the commander, the human commander's voice, echoed through the battle network. "All units, remember your orders." His voice was calm, steady. "No one gets past us." Explosions shook the screen. "We hold here for them." A Virelian officer asked in disbelief, "Why would they care so much about strangers?" The Queen answered quietly, her eyes locked on the screen. "Because they understand loss." The turning point, the Karn swarm pushed harder. Their largest warship emerged, an enormous black structure glowing with destructive energy. Its weapon charged. Target, Vierxia. The Queen felt her heart stop. "That blast will destroy the planet," Admiral Verk said. The human fleet was too far. There was no time. Then a human battleship moved forward, alone. It was massive, scarred, and burning from earlier damage. The commander's voice came through one last time. "All ships fall back." But someone protested. "This is an order." The battleship accelerated straight toward the enemy weapon. The Queen's voice broke. "No, stop," the human replied calmly. "Tell your people they mattered." The battleship rammed the enemy core. The explosion lit the entire system. The shockwave tore through the Karn formation, disabling multiple ships. The massive enemy weapon went silent. The battlefield froze. Silence followed. Then cheers erupted across Virelian channels. They were alive. The moment of realization, the human fleet regrouped. Many ships were damaged, some were lost, but they held the line. The Queen lowered herself to her knees, tears ran down her face. "They came for us," she whispered. "They didn't even know us, and they came." A transmission opened. A different human voice appeared on screen, older, tired, but kind. "Queen Salira," the voice said. "This is Admiral Hayes, command of the Human Relief Fleet." He looked around, checking his displays. "We're sorry we're late," he said. "More ships are on the way." The Queen stood slowly. You saved us," she said. Admiral Hayes shook his head. "No, we just showed up." He paused. "The real fight isn't over yet." A new fear for the enemy, the Karn swarm, began to pull back. For the first time in their history, they hesitated. Their ships shifted formation, uncertain. They had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that refused to break. An enemy that did not fear death. An enemy that protected others instead of itself. The Queen watched as human ships advanced, not with rage but with determination. She felt something she had not felt in weeks. Hope. The first light of Vierxia's dawn stretched across a war-torn sky. Fires still burned in some cities, but the planet no longer felt empty. For the first time in weeks, its people dared to breathe. The Queen stood at the observation deck, her hands resting on the silver railing. Her eyes traced the stars. The human fleet hung in the void like guardians, scarred, battered, yet still strong. Hundreds of vessels, some barely holding together, yet moving as one. Admiral Verk approached quietly. "Your Majesty, it is unlike anything we've ever seen. They are not fighting for glory, they are fighting for life." Salira nodded slowly. Her eyes glistened. "Yes, and that is more powerful than anything else." The arrival of the full human force at first, only a small group of humans had arrived. Fighters, frigates, and one massive battleship. They had stood between Vierxia and annihilation. But now, more signals appeared in deep space, stretching beyond the edge of the system. Human ships of every size and shape, cargo ships converted into war vessels, civilian transports with hidden weapons, medical frigates armed for battle, and retired warships from distant sectors, all answering the call. They did not ask for payment. They did not ask for titles. They simply came because someone needed help. Commander Carter's voice rang clearly over the Virelian comm channel. Queen Salira, this is the main relief fleet. We are here to protect your people, no matter the cost. All units move to defensive positions and prepare to strike. The Queen's heart swelled. Never before had a species come so far in such numbers, for others they did not know. Never had she witnessed this kind of courage, this kind of selflessness. They are extraordinary, she whispered. The enemy returns the Karn Void Swarm had not forgotten. Their main fleet regrouped, recovering from the shockwave of previous attacks. Their largest warships, black and sharp like knives, formed again, ready to crush Vyrexia. They had underestimated humans once. They would not make the same mistake again. The enemy advanced quickly, confident. They saw the human ships and believed them primitive, disorganized. But the humans moved differently than any enemy had anticipated. They did not panic. They did not retreat. They held formation, covered every weak point, and protected the evacuation routes of Vyrexia civilians. Queen Salira watched as humans moved among her people, placing themselves between destruction and the vulnerable. She saw pilots fly with precision and bravery she had never imagined. Ships she thought destroyed suddenly rose again after minor repairs, each one returning to the fight. They fight to save, not to conquer, she murmured. Not to destroy, only to protect. Admiral Verk bowed slightly. Your Majesty, they fight the way humans survive, by never giving up, even when the odds are impossible. The human way of battle, the battle expanded across the Vyrexian system. Explosions lit the void like miniature suns. Virelian ships tried to join the human lines, but the humans had already anticipated this. They directed traffic, coordinated strikes, and even used human fighters as bait when necessary, but always to protect civilians, never to harm allies. One human frigate, badly damaged and missing its left wing, surged forward to block an enemy assault. A human fighter, out of weapons and shields, rammed a Karn destroyer to prevent it from reaching a civilian transport. Ships that should have been destroyed acted as barriers. Pilots sacrificed their lives not for victory, but to protect those who could not protect themselves. Queen Salira could not take her eyes off the display. Her people had been trained for centuries in honor and combat. And yet these humans, so young, so fragile, and yet so fearless, were rewriting the rules of warfare. They are not invincible, said Admiral Verk. They bleed, they die, but they keep fighting for others. They are more than warriors, the Queen whispered. They are guardians. The turning point. Courage against impossible odds, the largest Karn warship advanced toward the planet, its weapon charging, ready to obliterate Vyrexia. Alarm sirens screamed in every city. Panic spread among the remaining population. The Queen's hands trembled on the railing. Commander Carter's voice rang over the comm network. All units, the target is the main enemy weapon. This is our moment. Protect Vyrexia at all costs. We may not all survive, but we will stop this together. From every corner of the human fleet, ships accelerated, forming a living wall of resistance. Fighter squadrons swarmed the enemy vessel. Larger ships maneuvered into positions to absorb the brunt of the weapon's attack. The Queen felt her chest tighten with fear and hope at the same time. One by one, human pilots made the ultimate choice, to sacrifice their lives to shield Vyrexia's civilians and fleets. One small fighter rammed the charging weapon, detonating in a brilliant explosion that weakened the enemy ship. Others followed, using themselves as shields for the smaller vessels below. They gave everything, not for glory, not for gain, but for life itself. The enemy's realization, the Karn Void Swarm, faltered. Their formations began to crumble. Their warships slowed. They had never seen this before. A species that refused to let others die, even at the cost of its own survival, was something they could not calculate. One by one, their attacks weakened. Their confidence faltered. They were machines of destruction, but they had never faced the living shield of sacrifice, courage, and determination that the humans embodied. Queen Salira watched as humans coordinated effortlessly, even amidst the chaos. They were tired, their ships damaged, their numbers smaller than the enemy, but their resolve was unbreakable. Each time the enemy struck, humans responded with precision and bravery that made the impossible seem possible. The final sacrifice as the battle reached its climax, the enemy's main warship was crippled but still dangerous. Commander Carter made a decision that would define history. His ship, already damaged, would deliver a direct strike to the core of the enemy vessel. Queen Salira, Carter's voice came over the comm one last time. "We are going in. Tell your people they are not alone. We will give our lives so Vierxia can live." The Queen's voice cracked. "No, you cannot. Don't leave me, don't." Carter's tone was calm. "It is the only way, and it is worth it." The ship surged forward, engines blazing, as the enemy fired its final, destructive blast. The human vessel collided with the Karn warship, detonating in a massive explosion. The shockwave destroyed the enemy fleet, scattering survivors into deep space. For a moment, silence blanketed the system. Then the Queen realized the humans had succeeded. Against all odds, they had saved Vierxia. Against impossible numbers, they had protected her people. Aftermath and reflection, the surviving human ships regrouped. Many were damaged. Some pilots were gone. But the Virelian population was alive. Families were reunited. Children looked to the skies with wonder, never forgetting who had saved them. Queen Salira stepped onto the bridge of her palace. She saw her soldiers standing in awe of the humans. She turned to Admiral Verk. "We have seen something no one else has, a species that fights to save others, not to conquer. A species that answers calls when everyone else turns away." Admiral Verk bowed. "Your Majesty, I do not know if words can express what we owe them." "They do not ask for thanks," Salira said softly. "They do it because they choose to, because they understand life is sacred, and because they are human." A message to the galaxy. After the battle, Queen Salira recorded a message to every known system. Her voice was calm but filled with emotion. "To all who hear this, know this. Humanity has arrived in the Vierxian system. They did not come for conquest. They did not come for glory. They came because one species called for help, and they answered." She paused, tears running down her face. "If you ever hear that humans are coming, do not fear war. Do not fear violence. Know only that someone may have survived long enough to be saved, and that there is a species willing to fight for life itself." Her words spread across the galaxy, inspiring every listening race. Not fear, not hatred, not ambition, but hope. The lasting legacy. Months later, the Virelian Empire began to rebuild. The scars of war remained, but the memory of what had happened would never fade. Queen Salira often looked at the night sky, remembering the human ships and their sacrifices. Humanity had taught her people something profound. That courage and compassion could be stronger than weapons, that life itself could be a shield, and that some species fight not for themselves, but for others. In the council chambers, when discussing alliances, Salira would often smile and say, "We have met the humans, and we know that if they come for you, you are not alone." And across the galaxy, a new name began to spread, spoken with awe and respect: the ones who answer. For every species that struggled, for every world that cried for help, humanity became the symbol of hope. And the Virelians, once ready to surrender to despair, had learned that even in the darkest hour, some would answer the call.